All right, let's talk about something that can cause a ton of confusion and frustration for drivers, the transmission shift solenoid. It's a tiny part that can cause some really big problems. So let's jump right in and figure this thing out. You know that feeling, right? When you're driving along and your car just lurches or hesitates or does something plain weird when it's trying to change gears? If that's ever happened to you, trust me, you are definitely not alone. It's one of the most common issues out there. And today, we're getting to the bottom of it. So first up, that awkward car lurch. Let's really talk about that feeling, that physical sensation that just screams, hey, something's not right with my transmission. Yeah, we're talking about that sudden, harsh jolt when you're trying to accelerate. Or maybe it's that weird lag where the car just seems lost for a second before it finds the right gear. And of course, there's that unmistakable, loud clunk that makes you physically wince. These aren't just little quirks. They're your car trying to tell you something. Okay, so what in the world is causing all this drama? Well, it's time to meet the little component at the very heart of the issue, this shift solenoid. Now, technically, it's an electrohydraulic valve. That sounds super complicated, I know, but it's really just a fancy way of saying it's a little valve that uses an electric signal to control the flow of your transmission fluid. And that's its whole job, to make sure that fluid goes to the right place at the right time so your car can shift gears perfectly. But here's a much easier way to picture it. Just think of it as a tiny, lightning-fast gatekeeper for your transmission. It's standing there, waiting for orders from your car's computer. And the process is so simple, it's brilliant. 1. The car's computer sends a little electrical signal. 2. That signal makes a tiny plunger snap open. And 3. Transmission fluid rushes through the open gate, and bam, you're in the next gear. This happens over and over and over again, thousands of times, without you even thinking about it. But what happens when that little gatekeeper starts to get lazy or just stops working? Well, it starts leaving behind a trail of evidence. So let's play detective and look at the clues your car gives you when a shift solenoid is going bad. The most obvious signs, of course, are the ones you can feel. You might notice a long delay before a gear actually engages, or the shifts might become really harsh and jolting. Maybe the car struggles to downshift when you're slowing down. And in the worst-case scenario, your car might go into what's called limp mode. That's where it intentionally gets stuck in one gear, usually second or third, just to protect itself from more damage so you can get somewhere safe. But it's not just about the feel of the shift. Keep an eye out for other clues, too. The check engine light popping on is a big one. You might also hear some strange whining or clunking noises. Sometimes a bad solenoid can even cause the transmission to overheat, and you might notice a burning smell. And, since the engine isn't in the right gear at the right time, your gas mileage will probably take a nosedive. Now, let's clear something up that gets a lot of people confused. The difference between slipping and harsh shifting. They are not the same thing. Slipping is when you hit the gas, the engine revs up, you hear the RPMs climb, but the car doesn't accelerate to match. It feels like you've lost power. Harsh shifting, on the other hand, is that physical bam or clunk you feel when the gear engages way too aggressively. Both can be solenoid problems, but they're two very different sensations. Okay, you've seen the evidence, you know the symptoms, so how do you actually investigate the cause? Let's walk through a clear, step-by-step plan you can follow to figure out what's really going on. We're just going to follow a logical progression here. We'll start with the easiest, simplest, and most common fixes first. We'll begin with the lifeblood of the transmission, the fluid. Then we'll move on to the computer codes, and finally, we'll check the actual hardware. Seriously, always start here. Before you even think about complex parts or expensive repairs, check your transmission fluid. If the level is low, or if the fluid is old, dirty, and contaminated, the solenoids simply can't do their job correctly. So often, this is the real root of the problem. So, the fluid looks good? Okay, step 2 is to have a little chat with your car's computer. You'll need an OBD2 scanner that can specifically read transmission codes, not just engine codes. And here's a great pro tip. If you don't have one, most auto parts stores will scan your car for free. Just ask. When you do the scan, you might get a code that looks like total gobbledygook, like this one, P0776. But that code is actually your treasure map. It's telling you exactly where to look. This one, for example, is pointing right at a problem with solenoid B, telling you it's either stuck or just not performing right. It gives you a specific target. So if you get a code that points to a specific solenoid, you're now down to just 3 main suspects. Is it the solenoid itself that's bad? Is it the wiring going to it, or is it the computer that tells it what to do? Let's figure out how to tell them apart. So let's break down the lineup. By far, the most common culprit is just a bad solenoid. It's an electrical part and they wear out. You can test it pretty easily with a multimeter to check its resistance. Then, less common but still possible is a wiring issue, a broken wire or a bad connection. And finally, way down the list in terms of likelihood is a bad computer, also known as the Transmission Control Module or TCM. And I really want to hammer this point home. A bad computer can happen, but it is really, really rare. A lot of people jump to the worst conclusion, but before you ever assume the most expensive part has failed, you have to rule out the simple stuff first. Check the fluid, check the wiring, test the solenoid itself. 99% of the time, your problem is one of those three. So there you have it. You're not in the dark anymore about that strange clunk or that weird hesitation. You understand the symptoms, you've met the culprit, and you know the diagnostic steps. You are now equipped to ask the right questions, whether you're tackling this yourself or just talking to your mechanic. So the only question left is, what are you going to check first?